All right. Let me know in the chat if my mic's a little bit too loud. I'm still kind of adjusting it just a little bit. So, a little bit of sad news today. Obviously, Lou Holtz passed away. R.I.P. Lou Holtz. Um, Lou Holtz is one of those guys in Arkansas football history that kind of defined an era for a lot of Razorback fans. You've got a situation where Frank Broyles retires and then Lou Holtz comes in and coaches. So I just kind of wanted to go over a little bit of his career in case y'all didn't know a whole lot about him. So let me make this just a little bit bigger. So Lou Holtz, yeah, I mean, obviously he was on ESPN. I think he did some of the college game day stuff. He was born in West Virginia. Uh, he was a coach for the New York Jets before he was the coach for Arkansas. Then he was at Minnesota for 2 years. And then obviously he went to Notre Dame and had a ton of success. So a really, really storied career from Lou Holtz. I mean, it kind of shakes me up just a little bit. You know what I mean? Just because uh, this was a guy that was super important to the Razorbacks. You know what I mean? He's one of those type of people that when they leave, a piece of history dies with him, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Um, so, yeah, sorry about that. So, but the thing with Lou Holtz is when he was the coach, Arkansas was competing for national championships. Believe it or not, um, they were actually awarded a national championship in 1977. They haven't claimed it, but that was the year that they went in to the Orange Bowl and blew out Oklahoma, and they had like 3 or 4 star offensive linemen suspended, for violating team rules. Uh, you know, yeah, I mean, I'm just, it's really a bittersweet day for me just because uh, I looked up to Lou Holtz just because he was just such an interesting personality. You know what I mean? And he was one of those guys that, uh, you know, he could just kind of get it. And I'm not super emotional about it, but it does hurt. Obviously, we knew that he wasn't uh, in the best of shape because he had checked himself into hospice. So it was just one of those deals where, we were kind of just waiting. And unfortunately, that moment quickly came today. I'm going to get into some of these comments real quick. All right. So Razor Pride says, Woo Pig, big win tonight and a huge win with the Tyson deal. Yeah, we're going to talk about that Tyson deal a little bit. Um, Texas goes down. RIP Lou Holtz. Yeah, RIP Lou Holtz. And I especially want to talk about the Nolan Richardson statue just because it's long overdue. I feel like, Arkansas has so much history that it can tell uh, generations. There's kids growing up today that had no idea that Darren McFadden was a two-time Heisman finalist. You know what I mean? It's one of those deals where, if you don't tell these people, uh, the information is going to get forgotten. Unfortunately, that's just the world that we live in today. Arkansas lost the best coach and biggest icon today. Yeah, as far as football goes, this is probably the biggest loss since Frank Broyles died. As far as somebody that was well known in the college football world and somebody that was influential, because a lot of people looked up to Lou Holtz. He's one of those guys that uh, I mean, going on College Game Day. Um, you know, some of his segments were some of the best segments. When I was a kid watching ESPN, because back in the day, that was really the only way you could get like information on college football. Uh, my grandpa had told me Lou Holtz was a coach, and I couldn't believe him at first. I'm like, that's the guy with like the really nasally voice, and obviously I've got a super nasally voice, but you know, I'm like, this guy's a national championship winning coach, but come to find out, yeah, he's the real deal. You know what I mean? So I'm super, super bummed out about losing Lou Holtz today. And yeah, we're going to talk about the statue. I wanted to get into I'm going to pull up his Wikipedia page again. So if y'all have just joined us, we're just kind of going over Lou Holtz's career and paying our respects. He was at William and Mary. Then he went to North Carolina State. Apparently was 33-12. And back then, I think they only played, 10 or 11 games. And not everybody went to a bowl game. Just because you had a winning season doesn't mean you went to a bowl game. But, I mean, he went to a bowl game 4 times. And so he was actually there 4 years. So that's really impressive. So he went and was with the New York Jets. I don't think it went over very well because he resigned 10 months later. But he went to Arkansas, 60, 21-2. And his page for the Arkansas career is pretty long. But that 1977 Razorback team, they were awarded a national championship. I don't know why they don't honor that. You know what I mean? But because they blew out Oklahoma, they were awarded it. And they lost to Texas that year. That was their lone loss. But 31-6 against Oklahoma, and then beating Texas Tech, Texas A&M. Let me know if y'all missed the old Southwest Conference. Josh Pate did a thing, I think 2 days ago, talking about how he would change up college football conferences. I'm just going to say it. I don't put much stock in what Josh Pate says, just because he says that he doesn't have like a lot of corporate influence, but anybody with eyes to see and ears to hear knows that, there's some sort of bias that goes on with anything that he says in regards to the SEC, and more specifically college football. The guy grew up in Columbus, Georgia, not far from Auburn. So he's a closet Auburn fan. That's why he's always, every chance he gets, he tries to glaze Auburn. You know what I mean? And I try to call him out on it whenever I see it. I don't really watch a lot of Josh Pate shows. But would y'all be opposed to the Southwest Conference coming back? I mean, obviously Arkansas left for good reasons. Everybody was cheating. And Frank Broyles was the AD that knew where all the bodies were buried. You know what I mean? So he was able to put Arkansas in a position to win and not, be so negatively affected by the obvious Texas bias. When you're the only school out of Texas and you've got schools like A&M and SMU that are openly cheating, you know what I mean? It's just a tough place. So let's get into this. It says McFadden got screwed on that second snub. Yeah, what gets me about the McFadden snub, and we're going to talk about the Nolan Richardson statue after this, and then we're going to kind of just kick it like we normally do when we go live. But when McFadden got snubbed, they were actually running news segments on that bar fight in Little Rock that happened. You know what I mean? Dude actually was screwed out of that. You know what I'm saying? Because he was literally going on, and you can still look up these videos today where it's got Houston Nutt and Danny Nutt and McFadden, and they're talking about him possibly winning the Heisman, and he keeps having to apologize for that bar fight. Obviously, college kids are going to party, and especially if you're the top dog in a place like Little Rock. Little Rock, I mean, there's some parties that go on in Little Rock. I'm speaking from experience, you know what I mean? I feel like Little Rock gets way wilder than Northwest Arkansas, but I could be wrong. I've only been to Fayetteville a few times, but yeah. So real quick, I'm going to go ahead and pull up X. And we're going to take a look at the statue. So I seen this on Hunter Yurachek's. So how many years do you think Hunter Yurachek won him with this right here? So let me make sure that y'all can see my screen, and y'all can't. All right. So there it is. There's the statue, guys. And, this had been rumored to be in the works for a while. There was a lot of discourse about why this wasn't getting taken care of because Nolan Richardson is not getting any younger. He won you your only national championship in basketball. I'm not saying Nolan Richardson put Arkansas basketball on the map, because that wouldn't be the truth, but uh, he was the guy that took you to that next level, because Arkansas was making Final Fours and they were in the tournament consistently. But at the same time, you've got a situation where, nobody had won a national championship until Nolan Richardson got there. And, I'm not one to talk about race and gender and stuff like that, but it is impressive that he was the first African American coach at the University of Arkansas and he won a national championship. You know, uh, Obviously, sometimes talking about stuff like that can be a little bit political, so I try not to talk about it a whole lot. But I'm impressed not only because uh, he won a national championship, but also because the legacy that he left behind. And a lot of people still look up to Nolan Richardson. I mean, I still watch some of his older interviews. I mean, dude is just a wealth of wisdom and information. I mean, we're really lucky as Arkansas fans to have been able to experience Nolan Richardson, and it's really sad how it ended for him. Obviously, he was fired in disgrace. You know what I mean? So it's one of those deals where you've got a situation like, you know, he goes and they're doing a press conference, and he's talking about, boosters telling him which players to play. And I think there was a little bit of racial tensions in there. You know what I'm saying? I try to avoid talking about stuff like that, but that's just kind of some things that he said that really upset some people. Whether that was justified or not, I don't know. Uh, I think I was like 10 years old when that happened. But, it's one of those deals where uh, you hate you hate how it ended, but obviously with him living in Fayetteville, he's got a ranch, and he still pours into the program. It's not like he just comes to the games. I mean, he goes, and what has been really great about John Calipari is he's actually brought him in to talk to the team. You know what I mean? Anytime you've got a national championship winning coach, you've got to be able to use that to your advantage. And I feel like Arkansas is doing that specifically. You know what I mean? Let's see here. Haven't watched Josh Pate since he had orange. Turned his comments off the video. Yeah. So the deal is I don't talk about politics. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what my political viewpoints are, because I talk about college sports. You know what I'm saying? I will say about the Josh Pate situation with Donald Trump is I don't feel like he should have turned the comments off. You know what I mean? Because you knew going in that he's a polarizing figure. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying what he did was wrong or right. You know what I mean? Uh, that's his situation. Uh, but you can't have your cake and eat it too in a situation like that. And I feel like he got a lot of negative exposure when, you know, he turned the comments off, and then going on Twitter. And obviously, Twitter is a hyper polarizing place. You know what I'm saying? And he was just getting roasted. You know what I mean? So, when you make your bed, you got to lie in it. You know what I mean? If I were to have a polarizing figure on and interview him, and my audience expresses their opinions, I would hope that I would be in a position where I could take a step back and be like, well, this is how these people feel. You know what I mean? Just because I might feel a certain way doesn't mean that I should not, allow them to feel a certain way. Because people you know, people have a right to voice their opinions. I mean, we still live in America. You know what I mean? So freedom of speech is a real thing. And I feel like anytime you try to, quelch freedom of speech, it never, ends good for you. You know what I mean? Yeah, Little Rock. I mean, Little Rock was popping when I lived there. I miss Little Rock. You know what I mean? I really do. Razor Pride says when he got hired, he just found out his daughter had cancer. The U of A told him to take his time off his kids, and he said no, go win it all. Yeah, that's another thing. Looking back on that run that they had, uh, you know what I'm saying? It's it's I've lost a little sister. You know what I'm saying? And I couldn't imagine if my daughter or my son passed away. You know what I mean? I damn sure wouldn't be able to go to work like that. It would be one of those things where I would have to take some time off, and I would have to, center myself mentally. So for him to go out and be in the tough position that he was in, you know what I mean? I mean, you know, it, it it's just it's super impressive, and I try to take that into account. You know, if I ever don't feel good and I'm thinking about calling in for work, I'm like, well, there are other people that are in worse situations than me that are going to work. You know what I mean? So I mean, yeah, I mean, the statue is long overdue, guys. By the way, I don't know. Apparently, you can hype these live streams now. So if y'all want to try to hype it, I don't really know what the deal is with that. I tried to do it on my phone, but not this live stream, but other live streams, and it just wouldn't work for some reason. Interview who he wants. Yeah. Yeah. The turning off the comments, I don't agree with at all. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not sure why that sent 3 times, but it did. But yeah, uh, now listen, Josh Pate, you know, I'm not going to try to talk bad about Josh Pate. I don't, like I said, I don't put a lot of weight into what he says because I know Josh Pate is extremely biased and he only says what people tell him to say, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Now, he says that he maintains a degree of independence when he does his shows, but I know for a fact there's a bunch of times where he's just saying something to control a narrative. Take, for instance, Billy Napier. Now, obviously, he was glazing Billy Napier during last offseason. I'm like, what are you doing? And that's what kind of opened my eyes a little bit about Josh Pate. I'm like, what are you doing, man? You know what I mean? Billy Napier is not going to work at Florida. I don't care how much you glaze him on your show. And come to find out, it really backfired in both their faces. And, and like I said, that was just kind of, my eye opening experience. After the stream is over, you post it for rewatch. Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know how that worked. Hey, don't worry. I got sausages for fingers too. Yeah. Like I said, Lou Holtz passing away. Uh, I mean, Arkansas lost a legend today. Um, it's one of those deals where it's a piece of history that you can't get back, because you've got a guy uh, that had Arkansas at the top. Obviously, when Frank Broyles stepped down, there was a lot of people that didn't think that Arkansas would be able to maintain the same success that Frank Broyles had. But Lou Holtz actually came in there and just came up a game short of having, an undefeated season. But yeah, I mean, it's anyway. But let's see. Yeah, fame has really gotten into JP's head. He's going, yeah, he's like the college football Joe Rogan. You know, the thing with Joe Rogan is like I've only listened to him a few times. If I learned some stuff when I listened to it, but like the longer I listen to him, the more that I realize that he just kind of says the same stuff. You know what I mean? Uh, the thing with Josh Pate is he just he loves to hear himself talk. I don't like to hear myself talk. I feel like I talk too slow. Anytime I watch one of my videos, I always got to watch it at twice the speed. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, just speak faster. You know what I mean? And sometimes I try to do it. But yeah, I can see that comparison. What's up, Nikki? Did y'all hear about Lou Holtz, Nikki? Yeah, I mean, it's just a super bittersweet day. Super, super bittersweet. Let's look at the basketball game stats real quick while y'all are here. Let me pull this up. Sorry if you can hear me. Let's see here. 105 to 85. Nice 20-point victory. Let me share my screen. By the way, guys, I've had some people ask me how I block ads. And I just use Brave browser, and it automatically handles all the ads for me. So I'm going to pull up the game. So Trevor Brazil had 28 points. I want to talk about Brazil. Let me turn it off real quick. I want to talk about Brazil here in a second. Billy Richmond had 9. Acuff had 13. So I wish they would have sat Acuff because it's obvious he's hurt. I do like the fact that Brazil kind of picked up a little bit of the slack, but and I don't normally talk about basketball, but we're going to talk about basketball for a second here. So I'm disappointed in Trevor Brazil's performance over the year. He's had games where he's really shown a spark. You know what I mean? He's came out and you're like, this guy is going to be a first round draft pick. But that player just kind of disappears. You know what I mean? And I, for the life of me, don't understand why. Because he's got all the physical tools, he's got the coaching, and he's got the experience. But I just, for the life of me, it's just so frustrating because some of the games he just disappears. And when you're having bad games out of Ewan and Pringle, you know, uh, Brazil, he's big enough that he can fill some of those roles. You know what I mean? And that's just what drives me crazy. You know, I mean, it just gets under my skin. Texas head coach said in his press conference tonight that in his 30 years, Acuff's the best point guard he's ever seen in his life. Yeah, I mean, Acuff is a generational talent, and I feel like this season is slipping away from us just because we're not getting consistent play from our bigs. It's not happening. It's just one of those things where wouldn't it be a shame for this team to get to the Sweet 16 and then meet a team like Houston again or Florida, you know, or Lord help us, Kentucky. Although I do believe that we would beat Kentucky if we played them again. But, you know, to have the generational talent that we've got, and just to have Brazil and Ewan and Pringle just disappear, it's really, really disheartening. It's super frustrating if I'm being honest. It's his last home game. Acuff wasn't going to sit. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I forgot it was their last home game. That makes sense now. But yeah, I mean, you know, let him start the first 5 minutes. Let him play a little bit. I mean, because you've got to win in the tournament. You've got to make it at least past the Sweet 16. Otherwise, people are going to be like, this money was wasted. And I hate to talk like that, but I mean, it's just the truth. When you get on Twitter, you're going to see people like, how much did this roster cost? And we don't want a Kentucky situation where those numbers leak and then, you've got to justify how the team's playing based on the money. Acuff was pretty fun tonight, but I wish he played less minutes. It was a senior night also. Yeah. And like I said, every time Brazil has a game like this, I'm like, where were you the last 4 games where we needed you? Where were you when Florida was literally putting belt to ass? You know what I'm saying? Pardon my French, but, it's just one of those deals where I just get so mad about it. You know what I mean? I try not to get upset at all. I mean, because the dude's got talent. He's got size. He's got coaching. He's got experience. Tell me why Brazil isn't producing. Razor Pride said he was still limping. You could see him hop every time he came back down from a jump. Yeah. Yeah. The thing about it is that's the risk you take. Obviously, it's going to be hard to sit a player of Acuff's talent and pedigree, but, I would hope that John Calipari has a plan for the SEC tournament. Let me look. I'm going to look at the schedule just real quick again. Let's see. I forgot who their last game was against. Why are we playing Missouri? I just don't understand it. Why couldn't we play somebody like, Kentucky or Alabama again? I like seeing those big basketball games. I can't help it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I just wish they would quit trying to cram this Missouri, rivalry down our throats. It's just nobody cares about the Missouri game. You know what I mean? Missouri doesn't have football fans. Well, they don't have the fan support that a place like Arkansas does. You know what I mean? And that's what makes when Missouri spanks Arkansas, that's what makes it so frustrating to Arkansas fans. It's not that we lost to Missouri, it's the fact that nobody cares about Missouri football like they do Arkansas football. It's just, I mean, the fan support for Arkansas is there, and just the production on the team has not been. Yeah, we played them twice. Well, let me look. What was the original score when we played them the first time? It was 94-86. I wonder what the spread for that is. Let me see if ESPN's got it on their thing. It doesn't have a spread just yet. If y'all are in the chat, let me know what the spread is for the game. Yeah, I just feel like the Missouri rivalry is one of those deals where, people thought it made sense, but Arkansas, Missouri don't have any football history, and the only basketball history that I see for Missouri is when we took their coach from them. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't get it. Uh, Now, Missouri's a fine school, but, uh, you know, Arkansas nearly packs their stadium out with a 2-10 football team. And there were a lot of times when Missouri did not have the same sort of attendance, even though they had a quote unquote successful year. And what frustrates me the most about the Missouri situation is just the simple fact that Missouri plays cupcakes for their football schedule. I mean, they've got year after year, Missouri has the easiest schedule in the SEC. And so when people like start talking about like coaching hot boards, Drinkowitz is not a good coach. He plays cupcakes and like they talk about his winning percentage. And I'm like, well, look at the teams that he's played. Look at where they've played him at. Kansas? Kansas is your football rivalry? I mean, that's outrageous. Kansas. Because Kansas is known for their high impact college football. It just kind of gets under my skin a little bit. Drinks is from Arkansas, and a lot of Arkansas high school kids were being recruited from there. That's why they're pushing for rivalry. Yeah, well, the thing with Drinkowitz, so here's my theory on Drinkowitz and Mike Norvell and Gus Malzahn. So we all know how the Gus Malzahn situation ended for Arkansas and Gus. Obviously, Houston Nutt was forced to bring in Gus Malzahn just because they didn't want to lose Mitch Mustaine and Damian Williams to other schools. So Frank Broyles really put a lot of pressure on Houston Nutt. So they bring in Gus, and he brings in the Springdale Five. And, it's just, I mean, I feel like they should make a movie about it because there's so much juicy details in all of that. You know what I mean? About how, Houston and Gus weren't seeing eye to eye, and David Lee starts running the offense. But at the same time, Arkansas is just running through the SEC schedule. After that blowout loss to Southern Cal, they just go on a run. And I think they win like 10 straight. You know what I mean? So to do that with that amount of dysfunction, I mean, is really impressive. But like I was saying, so obviously Gus Malzahn has always tried to get the better of Arkansas every chance they get. You know what I mean? He did it at Auburn, I think twice. He used Arkansas as leverage for a better contract. And, he just played Arkansas. And I feel like the assistants that worked under Gus Malzahn still have that kind of same mentality about the University of Arkansas, right or wrong. Obviously it wasn't a good situation for hardly any of the parties. But maybe one day I'll do like, a documentary video with a little bit of production value and all that, if y'all are interested. But anyway, we've went a little while, a little long. I plan on going live again Friday night. So I think I'm going to end it here in a minute. But yeah, let me know what you think. By the way, I've got super chats and donations and all that turned on. If y'all are interested in supporting the show, not saying you've got to, totally optional. Just letting you know that they are turned on. So, but yeah, anybody has anything to say, I think we're going to end it here. R.I.P. Lou Holtz, and hopefully Nolan is with us for a little while longer. You know what I mean? All right, guys. Thanks for joining me. I'll catch you in the next one.